Another strong form to keep an eye on, as the drivers have just had a whistle and they made their way onto the track.
So 7 more laps of the course and it'll be an interesting front row of the starting grid with Kian Fardin on the faster side, Jan Petrovski on the slower side. So it could be very interesting off the start. Fardin and Petrovski, then Andrea Dupé and Martin Molnar, Enzo Tarvanitschkel and Scott Lindblom from Joshua Graham and Andrea Dakin, then Tobias Clausen, Jens Truer, Sandro Perez, Luna Flusha, Max Walton, Griffin Peebles, Guy Albag and René Lammers.
From Elliot Kaczynski, Marcus Silkunas, Martin Ritonen, Oliver Kinmark, Leo Robinson, Nico Lamarli, Kirill Kutskov, William Go, Timofey Mikhailov, Barley Markman, Sasha Avril and Jensen Burnett. 28 drivers onto the track for the A against B OK Junior qualifying heat right now happening in front of your very eyes in Sarno. And one name that we haven't been used to see that far back on the grid is Kirill Kutskov, driving for Birlart, because he didn't have the best of qualifying effort this morning. It's fair to say that a lot of qualifying performance have been, put into the ground because of tricky track conditions. So let's see what he can do from 12 row on the grid.
Yeah, totally big shock for the Birlart driver Kirill Kutskov to be that far down, but the attitude you've got to take in that situation is, well, there's nothing left to lose because you're down at the back end of the field. You can just charge your way forward, try and make as much progress as humanly possible. He was only just outside the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship in the European category and would have been in the top 10 had it not been for a DNF in the final race of the year at Franciacorta. So let's see how it all kicks off this time. False start. It's happened a lot over the course of the week in junior, but Kian Fardin, of course, very unusual for him to be in the position of starting from the front end of the starting grid. So the Swiss driver, you cannot really begin to describe the pressure that's mounting on you. You know that you've got the world's eyes on you. And this is not a sport like football or rugby or tennis or cricket or anything like that, where you have a lot of your training, a lot of your development happens behind closed doors where people can't see it. In motorsport, this is your training. This is the middle of your development progress. If you're going to make a big mistake, it's going to be under a very big microscope.
And there's no training, indeed, for starting procedure. They don't do that in free practice or behind the scenes coming to those events, actually, because sometimes they do in gearbox class, for instance. They do a lot of starting tests. It's usual to see that in free practice and qualifying because of the gearbox system that they have. But in zero drive class, it's quite unusual. So you'll never see, starting procedures being repeated beforehand. So there's no way to learn than properly be in the middle of it. So as you said, it comes always with a great deal of pressure for those youngsters to find themselves in that position for the first time. Then Kian Fardin has another shot at it. He needs to pace everybody down, try to resist that will of accelerating way too soon, and let's see if he can do it right now.
Yeah, it's about trying to make sure that you don't outpace yourself as they come off to the final turn. So onto the main straight. Fardin again, just a little bit quick away. Are we going to get racing this time? Yes, we do. That's fair enough. Fardin moves across to the middle of the road, manages to get through in front of Petrovski. A bit of a slide there from Andrea Dupé, but he manages to hold on to third place. Almost has an attack at Petrovski through the first couple of corners. And as they go through turn 2, they will come up to the S's once again. Through to the left, through to the right. Is everybody going to get through? Well, a little bit of riding of the curbs there for the energy course of Martin Molnar. Doesn't quite go according to plan for him. He's going to drop back several places, but out in front, still okay for Fardin in front of Andrea Dupé and Jan Petrovski. Petrovski in the Tony kart, trying to make his move for the lead already. Fardin is very much in no man's land here as Enzo Tarvanitschkel, the Thailand driver who is under a Spanish license for this World Championship. He finds himself getting up into 4th position. Enzo Tarvanitschkel having a very busy time between the European Championship and here in the World Championship title. He's been schmoozing it with the Concorde d'Elegance at Ferrari over the last few weeks. He is a Ferrari man at heart, really wants to drive for them in Formula 1 one day, as I'm sure, of course, does this man in second place, Petrovski, who has the run on Kian Fardin into turn 1, dives for the move on the inside line. Very nicely handled by the pole as he gets through to the lead.
Yeah, beautifully made indeed, and a switch for position as it keeps battling on further back as well, with Scott Lindblom is the one who lost the position to Enzo Tarvanitschkel in the opening lap. You can see the battle, how close that is. Jan Perezowski in the lead, Kian Fardin in second, Andrea Dupé in third, Tarvanitschkel, Lindblom. Then we have Gerard Graham, Jens Truer, Griffin Peebles, Luna Flusha and Martin Molnar for your top 10 at the moment. It was a beautiful move indeed. Watch out for further back as well, going through on the inside as a 105 on Enzo Tarvanitschkel, making his way up to third position, isn't it? In front of Adrien Dupé, indeed. We're going to keep a good eye on that as well. But it was a good move indeed, because in that turn number 1, it goes so fast onto the right that you need to keep the racing line. There's no point defending too much. And there he goes on the inside. This is Joshua Graham, isn't it, on Scott Lindblom. Scott Lindblom, sorry, on... yes, indeed. This is a 2 battling along for 5th place, indeed. As Andrea Dupé, in the meantime, lost 2 positions down to 6.
Well, Lindblom and Graham both made the move there into 4th and 5th position. This is both of their first appearances at this... Oh, that's Leo Robertson! Leo Robertson has gone clean off the road there at the final turn. So Leo Robertson off in the final bend, I do believe. Oh no, it's turn 1 actually. That's turn 1. So Leo Robertson gone off at the first corner. The Ricky Flynn driver. Very unfortunate there for Leo Robertson, the Algerian. As up to the hairpin at the end of the straight, Josh Graham is going to make his bid for 4th. Here he comes. Joshua Graham in the Argenti Motorsport colours that he races in the United Kingdom. And what a performance this is in his first ever World Championship weekend. Josh Graham mixing it up in the top 5 as Enzo Tarvanichkel goes to take on his teammate Jan Piotrowski up to the final hairpin. And Tarvanichkel looks really quick here. There's an outside bet that he is going to be world champion. But of course, he has to do all the hard work this week. Certainly seems to have got himself into a good position in time qualifying. He's right up there with his teammate, tried to go the long way round and make it harder for himself. Now he's going to try and knock on the door of his teammate as up the inside Lindblom gets back past Josh Graham for 4th position. But now Piotrowski under big pressure from his own teammate. This is really getting heated at Sarno.
Yes, it is indeed. There was, even by the look of it, a slight touch from Tarvanichkel on the back end of Jan Piotrowski. Maybe not, but on the way to the hairpin. And there he goes around the inside, taking the lead. Yes, indeed. Watch out for the door to be open for Kian Fardin. Kian Fardin just took the advantage and got past back in 2nd place. It was a good opportunity taken at the right time for Kian Fardin. The Energy Corsa driver back in 2nd place, certainly eager to do more because he lost the leadership quite early in that race. As further back, we have a beautiful move from Scott Lindblom on Josh Graham. This is happening as well with Griffin Peebles making his way through, keeping a good recovery. Griffin Peebles on his way to what is 6th place at the moment. He climbed 8 positions ever since the start of the race. As this is lap number 5, the time is running out and we have so many drivers in the same mix at the moment. So who's going to win in which order? Enzo Tarvanichkel has the upper hand, but for how long? Because Kian Fardin back in 2nd place has very much the pace, still a bit in his tires. But Scott Lindblom, good recovery for the Swedish driver up into 3rd. As Piotrowski and Josh Graham not far behind. Watch out for the move. Everybody stays in position into the hairpin. That might be a bit too soon. Oh, the battle for 2nd. And it was very close for Scott Lindblom, who tried his bit on Kian Fardin, but it didn't go through this time.
So this is going to be more frustration for Scott Lindblom, who will be shouting at Kian Fardin in his helmet. Why are you defending on lap 5? This is obviously clearly Kian Fardin unable to catch up with Enzo Tarvanichkel, but the rest of the field is now boxed in behind the Swiss. Tarvanichkel has this race already won to a certain extent. Up in front with a canter, 7/10 of a second clear with 2 laps to go. It's going to be very difficult to catch back up again. Lindblom trying to get Kian Fardin out of the way, and that's one way of doing it. Through comes Piotrowski to 3rd place. Fardin won't be happy. Molnar is in 5th, Peebles in 6th place. Can we just make a note of who's in 10th position? It is Kirill Kutskov. It's now in 9th position, in fact, as Dupé has run wide. There goes Peebles, who gets through and has actually got a little bit of a battle on his hands with Lucas Flusha. No, that's Luna Flusha. Luna Flusha right up in the top 6 in her first World Championship weekend. Excellent work from Luna Flusha. We have heard recently Toto Wolff talking about Luna as the one to make the difference as far as the women are concerned. She's doing it right here at Sarno.
Yeah, I do hope that Toto Wolff is watching along as well, or planning to tune in for the rest of the weekend, because Luna Flusha, having that pace, having climbed 5 places since the start of this race, is more than willing to shine here in Sarno. Final lap, ladies and gentlemen. Tarvanichkel building a bit of a gap, 4/10 on those 3 drivers. This is 1:49 happening for the back. My apologies. Griffin Peebles, indeed. Kirill Kutskov and Martin Moha. Kutskov is having the race of his life in between. He's going to try again until the very last corners.
Kutskov is in 6th position. That is absolutely extraordinary. He has worked his way up from 23rd on the grid in 6 laps to be in P6. Here comes Piotrowski, now trying to make his bid back on Scott Lindblom. Lindblom resists. He's doing his very best to close back up on Enzo Tarvanichkel in the final lap to see if he can try and overhaul the Thai racing driver up front. Of course, he is from Thailand, but he's racing under a Spanish license. That's where he lives nowadays. But Enzo Tarmanichkul coming through in fine style out of the final bend and onto the home straight. Enzo Tarmanichkul will open his week with a fabulous victory. Great work for the Tony Kart. Enzo Tarmanichkul from Scott Lindblom and Jan Piotrowski. That was a terrific race. Kian Fardin in front of Griffin Peebles, the Australian, in his best ever finish in FIA Karting in P5. And Kirill Kutskov goes from 23rd on the grid to P6. That is incredible in just 7 laps. Well done. Absolutely sensational. Good battles out there on the course and some really exceptional work from the drivers. Martin Molnar P7th from Luna Flusha, Joshua Graham and René Lammers. Some great drives in the top 10. Sasha Avril was not far from the top 10 either, having worked his way up into 12th position from 27th and last row of the starting grid. So some amazing performances then in this last of the first races of the week. So terrific stuff then in the OK Junior qualifying heat for Groups A versus B, and a good opener to the week. But Enzo Tarmanichkul, who is very much following in the footsteps of Alex Albon to be the next young man from Thailand, although he is under the Spanish flag this week, he's doing a great job. Scott Lindblom in second, Jan Piotrowski in third from Kian Fardin and Griffin Peebles, Kirill Kutskov in front of Martin Molnar and Luna Flusha, Joshua Graham and René Lammers. Then it is Elliot Kaczynski in front of Sasha Avril, Guy Albag ahead of Jens Trua and William Go, then Marcus Selkunas ahead of Andrea Dupé, Oliver Kinmark running in 18th position. Then it is Matti Rittunen in front of Tobias Clausen and Andre Adaikin. Jensen Burnett, the Canadian, in front of Nico Lanalati and Timofey Mikhailov for the new Vera Racing team. Then Max Walton and Bradley Mashman in the Shamrock Europe Paralins in 25th and 26th. 2 retirements, Leo Robinson for Ricky Flynn on the closing lap, of the race. And then Sandro Perez, we lost the Spanish talent on the opening lap of this heat. So some big drama and some big excitement down there as the drivers are continuing to put on a good show. But this FIA Karting World Championship event, you can see the world flags represented over the circuit here at Sarno.